Hey everyone, Tony here from rchelp.com. In the last video you saw that I was trying to get the T-Maxx started and it wouldn't start. If you look at that puddle of fuel and then you look, it never started and that fuel tank was full. Well, there's only two places that this fuel can come from. I've already removed the engine and it's either coming from right there in the front seal or it's coming from back there in the back of the case and it's just not sealing up properly. Either way, we're going to fix this issue. I'm going to go ahead and just replace that front bearing with the one that I had that I knew wasn't leaking. I've already shown you guys a few videos back on how to tear the motor down and how to rebuild it, so I'm not going to put any of that on the video, but I'm going to tear it down, get everything done, get it all sealed up, get it back in the truck, and I have got to clean all that crap off that chassis. I cannot have a nice clean truck with all that fuel that's going to do nothing but attract dirt. And it threw fuel everywhere. Basically, it got on the crankshaft and just slung it, which is why I think it was from the front bearing. So I'm going to tear it down, get it back in the truck, and I'll be back. Alright, I've got the engine rebuilt, got the new bearing in. I did notice on the old bearing it did have a lot of play on that center race. So cross your fingers and hope that was the problem. Turn your radio on, transmitter on, make sure everything works, make sure it's getting full throttle. Let's see if we can get her to fire this time. Now, I did reset the carburetor at the factory recommended settings when you first get the truck, which is 2.5 turns out on top, 1 3/4 turns out on the bottom. The bottom can be a little iffy because how far you're going to come out is also going to depend on where your idle adjustment is set at. If you got a wider idle adjustment, once you start closing it, you're going to start leaning out that bottom end. The bottom, I would say set about a 1 millimeter gap whenever you look down into the carburetor, and then set it to 1 3/4 turns out. Then if you need to close it, you're not leaning it that much, and if you need to open it, you'll actually be richening it up. So let's see if she starts. We got to get fuel up to the carburetor first though. Got fuel up there, you heard it, it almost wanted to fire. Let's see if we can get her to actually fire. Not quite. With that, I'm kind of thinking that the glow plug is on its way out. As long as I got this button held down, it's staying running, which tells me that, you know, maybe the coil inside the glow plug isn't quite staying hot enough as it's running. I've tried every setting in the book. I went a 1/4 turn lean to a 1/4 turn rich on the low end to try to keep it to idle, and it just will not do it, guys. So almost positive we have a glow plug issue, and the only way to fix a glow plug issue is to spend another $7 and put another glow plug in. So I got to get a glow plug. Alright, I put another glow plug in that I had, and unfortunately, instead of it having the small tip like the Traxxas plugs do, this is an OS8. Instead of it having the small tip, it's got the big tip, so I can't put my easy start on it, but I can hold it down on it. So hopefully it will fire and stay running. As you saw, whenever I pinched that fuel line to kill it, that is the proper way to kill it, by the way. Whenever I pinched it, the throttle went up and it took about 5 seconds for it to die. That tells me that my bottom end is just a little bit too rich, but it's better to be too rich than too lean. So now I know I can lean that bottom end out and get even more power out of this thing. I'm still at 2.5 turns on the top, but the most important thing is you guys saw, just by replacing the glow plug, even though this glow plug was still showing good, this glow plug is bad. It's not staying hot and it's not keeping that engine running. So now that that's done, it's time to go play, guys. As you can see, I've got it sitting out there, it's running. I had to start it the same way I did before. If you're going to be tuning these, you need some fuel a nice micro screwdriver, and a temp gun. Don't forget that temp gun. Now all we're going to do is we're just going to kind of run it around the field out there a little bit. Why did it die? Because I've got this thing running pretty rich. I actually need to go just a little bit leaner on the bottom end. Remember, 1 hour. And whenever you have these things just sitting there idling, guys, they're going to load up and they're going to die. You have to keep the throttle going on these. Let's go play. Now, the reason why it's revving up like that, whenever we rebuilt this truck and put that whole chassis back together, we did not set the slipper clutch. Now, I pinched the fuel line right there and it died almost perfectly. That tells me don't mess with the bottom end. I'm going to go get my Allen driver and readjust my linkage real quick, and I got to get a wrench to adjust that slipper. I'm sure you're asking, why do I have to redo the throttle linkage again? I've actually got it too far towards the servo, and whenever I lowered the idle down because it was a little bit too high, it just wouldn't let it go down enough. Now when you're tightening your slipper clutch, go about 1/8 of a turn at a time. I couldn't find a wrench, so I had to get a pair of pliers. Let's give that a shot and see what it does. Now my idle's just a hair too low. Temperature's right at 230. I'm leaving it alone. It's running great. Rebirth. I can tell such a difference with this thing now. Oh, I love the T-Maxx. One of my shocks out. Oh, Sam, you know all about that. I think we're out of fuel. Well guys, that was a lot of fun. The motor wanted to run up there around 270, 280, and you know, it's pretty hot, but when you're taking a 0.15 motor and running a truck this heavy and running it as pretty much as hard as I was in tall grass, full throttle almost all the time, hard turns, full throttle again. You're going to put some heat in her. Now we did have one little tragedy. As you saw, I hit my air conditioning unit. I popped that shock off right there. Yeah, it happens. You know, I would rather that pop off and I have to, you know, I have to refill it than have it break an A-arm and I gotta go replace it. I've got plenty of shock fluid. You know, rebuilding a shock, as you saw in one of the last videos, it's not a hard thing to do, guys. So all I gotta do now is, one, clean up all the shock oil, two, take my air blower, blow this thing off, and it will be as clean as it was when we put it back together. Routine maintenance will make these things go a long way. I could tell a drastic difference in the amount of power that this thing was put into the ground. You know, this is a great little truck, guys. Anyone that wants to buy this, it is for sale. I don't know a price on it. Come over to the forum and I'll have a price set in there in the for sale section. Like I say, I don't know what I'm going to charge for it yet, but it's going to be reasonable, guys. You know, like I said, I got a really good deal on this. I completely rebuilt this thing, went through it top to bottom. I want to pass the savings on to you guys and get you guys into something that is just absolutely a blast to drive. I tell you what, if you got a BMX track somewhere, this is going to be a lot of fun. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I don't see near the amount of fuel on the bottom. The glow plug was one of the issues with why this thing wouldn't stay running, but that front bearing needed to be changed. So I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I went ahead and threw that thing in there. Man, this thing's a blast. Guys, thanks for watching. Come over to the forum and visit us. Like I say, this one will be for sale on there. I got a few more videos I'm going to do with this one though. So I hope to see you there, guys. rchelp.com. We'll see you in the next video.